We are in unprecedented times of chaos and change, and you might be feeling panic or anxiety or depression or even hopelessness. You might be feeling powerless to do anything in the middle of all that you're witnessing. Our guest today, Monica Gullotta, is a mental health educator, mentor, lecturer, and author that's here to talk to us about finding that inner peace in the middle of collective panic. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves. I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations week after week. And today, such a special opportunity today to acknowledge the shadow, the collective shadow that we're all experiencing that could be giving you a feeling of urgency or panic, anxiety, and maybe even some depression or feeling of hopelessness. Like, what could we even do about all of this going on? And when I say that, you might meet me in a different space depending on your frame of reference, depending on your belief system, depending on what you think is true. And so I want to start off by saying that, just so we're all on the same page, that from a mental health perspective, we're dealing with a lot of rapid, seemingly not well thought out change that is impacting a lot of people that don't necessarily, quote, like, deserve it. Okay, so there's a lot of feeling of unfairness, a lot of people being released from their federal jobs, a lot of people being released from their Park Service jobs or just other places in the government, and a lot of laws and things being attempted or rulings being attempted that really erode the fabric of public trust in our governmental systems. And I'll just say that what I experienced this weekend was I actually went to a gun range because my husband is, he's a martial artist, and he also is familiar with guns and works with them for most of his life so far. And he's been urging me for like about 9 years to learn how to use one. And I thought, well, okay, it's his birthday. I'll go ahead and go with him and I'll fire one of these things. And by the way, I hit the bullseye many times, so I'm quite good at it. And I didn't know I was that good at it. It's not something I really want to be good at, but maybe that is something that we need to all consider right now. Because when I was there, what I saw was a lot of women and their husbands teaching them how to use weapons. Now, why would there be so many women with their husbands and just there with their friends trying to learn how to defend themselves? And I think it points directly to when you have rapid change that doesn't seem to be coming from any kind of measured, ordered method of bringing about that change, where it's just like literally like a shotgun blast across the entire government, across the entire culture. It feels unsettling. It erodes your trust that these government institutions are going to be there for you, are going to protect you. And then if you don't feel that you can trust the government, if you don't feel that you can trust your neighbor, then the next thing is you're going to be looking for self-defense. And so I think that's where a lot of people's mindsets are turning to now. And it's something that we really should talk about today, which is why I brought on my friend, Monica Gullotta, who is a mental health educator, a mentor, a lecturer, and an author. And in 1999, she actually founded and facilitated the Upstate Group for Panic, Anxiety, and Depression, where she provided educational group meetings for 16 consecutive years. 2008, she received an award presented by Mental Health Association in Onondaga County and was honored for innovative work that gives people suffering from panic, anxiety, and depression the support and knowledge needed to help themselves. And in 2009, she founded the Ray of Hope Wellness Center, where she provided one-on-one mentoring to educate individuals contending with anxiety and depression and other kind of mental health maladies. And so Monica's written a few books, 3 books actually: Therapy Land, Rethinking Anxiety and Depression, also Conquering Shame, Surviving to Thriving. So there's a lot we can learn today about standing in our power, especially from a female body, or a body that's been ostracized. Could be brown skin, could be black skin, could be any number of targeted individuals that feel that target on your back from our government and from the people that are running our government right now. You might feel like nothing is safe. And if you're not in that group and you're like, I don't feel any of that, maybe take a look at, are you Caucasian? Are you in the ruling class? In the supremacy model? Are you at the top? Are you a white female? Just asking. Because if you're not noticing any of this, it could be because you're in the sweet pocket for the people that are doing all this stuff. You wouldn't be attacked. So I'm just going to ask you to open up your eyes, open up your ears, and have a listen, because there's a lot of people that don't feel that way. There's a lot of people that feel really thrown about, tossed about on a sea right now, and unsafe. And so welcome, Monica. Thank you for agreeing to come on the show. So grateful that you're here and share your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kerri. It means so much to me to be on your podcast today. And I hope I'm able to enlighten some of your viewers today about what's really going on in our society today. Yes.
And I'm looking forward to that part of our conversation. And just so that people can get to know you, like how you came into this wisdom, just like in a nutshell, in a few minutes, just tell us about some things about your journey so that we can understand, how you came to all of this path that you have walked.
Absolutely. So I came from a highly dysfunctional home where there was a lot of toxicity, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of shame. And for many, many years, I never knew what was wrong with me. And what, in essence, was wrong with me had more to do with the environment that I was living in. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of secure attachment and security and attunement. And so my parents were dysregulated, and therefore I was dysregulated. And to kind of segue into anxiety, my anxiety was so debilitating, Kerri, that I literally was afraid to go to school, afraid to get on the school bus, afraid to take out different books at the library, afraid to go to the bathroom. So in terms of, anxiety and panic and hypervigilance, that's what I lived 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for many, many decades of my life, never knowing what was going on with me.
I want to just say, like, that experience that you just described.
Yeah.
Those are brown-skinned immigrant people in our country right now.
Absolutely.
That's for everybody who's listening. That's the experience of brown-skinned immigrants in this country right now. Please continue.
Yes, absolutely. So there was this ongoing sense of uncertainty, fear, and because in essence, I didn't have the understanding, the tools, the techniques, the knowledge, the understanding about what in essence was driving my behavior, I was doomed. And so in essence, here's what I want to really highlight today about individuals that might be grappling with symptoms of panic, anxiety, or this unrelenting fear. What in essence is going on inside of you is not a symptom of something pathological, but rather in essence, they're messengers. So I like to think of anxiety and depression as allies. In essence, they're telling us there's something going on. We're not living in a society that's grounded and secure and stable right now. So of course you're having symptoms. So I think the most important thing for any individuals that are experiencing these symptoms is to normalize them. So when in essence they surface, it's about acceptance and saying to yourself, of course I'm feeling symptoms. Look at the world that we're living in. I don't know from one minute to the next how safe and secure I'm going to be. So in essence, it's about, again, normalizing symptoms and coming from a place of what I refer to as agency, power, and control. So when the symptoms come up, it's like, okay, I see you, I acknowledge you, I recognize you. How can I move into managing you and working with you and having you help me through this very uncertain, tumultuous time?
Yeah, and it seems to me that you had your experience in your family system, right? And so our idea about a family system, and of course, many people that have been watching this podcast know that
Mhm,
this idea is kind of false, but the idea is that your home environment would be the safest place for you to be, would be the place that you're the most loved and the most accepted and the most embraced. And, and then you can go to
mhm,
school where it's scary out there because,
mhm,
because you don't know those people and they don't have your back. And some people got that experience at home. I know my husband did, and his African American family, he had that experience of being loved at home. And then
mhm,
the outer world was the place where it was like more scary. But
mhm.
for some of us, we didn't have that experience. We had a home life where it was dangerous at home and it was actually safer to be outside the home than it was to be in the home. I have a feeling that was your experience.
That was absolutely my experience, And then again, for the longest time, I was very dysregulated. So when I had symptoms of anxiety and, depression or panic or fear, in my mind, I equated it with, oh my God, catastrophic thinking, something bad is going to happen to me. And I didn't have, again, the tools and techniques to, in essence, regulate myself. But that is all changed. And I have developed my own tools and techniques to help me navigate through times such as these. And Kerri, I have to say this to you and to your listeners. It's interesting because for so long, it was so opposite for me because I felt like, oh my God, I can't function, I can't cope. Ironically, during this very tumultuous time, I'm not feeling affected because again, I'm drawing from that sense of agency, that power, that control that comes from within me. And just, drawing from that, I'm not getting caught up in all of the external chaos and confusion and the turbulence going on in the world. And that's what I really want to emphasize to your listeners. Again, there's nothing wrong with you for being symptomatic. It's again a symptom and a sign of what's going on in our society.
Yeah, and I think that is a really valid point that when like our where we put our sense of safety is
Mhm,
all of a sudden not there, right? So we maybe some people had placed a sense of safety in the government because for a long time the government has actually been for most people a good advocate, right? And whatever you might say and criticize the government, for a long time we've been able to pretty much focus on our own lives without having to focus on the government. We haven't had to pay too much attention to what is going on because it's just been there and it's been steady. But now we have this like upheaval of the government, right? So that idea that this external entity called government would provide for your basic needs, which is a social contract, is actually being broken now by the attack on Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and things like that. That
mhm,
social contract that says
mhm,
we'll have your back when you're not able to provide for yourself, our society will provide for you, is being challenged right now. I wouldn't say
mhm,
it's been broken yet, but there's people who would like to break that. And so it's kind of interesting that this, shamanic medicine, shamanic teachings say that every single thing is medicine. And so when things are happening in your life or in your environment or in your body, they tend not to label things as bad or toxic. They tend to just say, that's medicine. And so, do you want that medicine? Probably not. But is it there for you? Yes. And I think the medicine that's here in this situation is calling us each to um, lean into a larger sustainable resource than governments or family or community, right? It's a larger sustainable resource. And what is that? It's the earth, it's the divine, it's whatever you, right? It's that aspect of self that's
Mhm.
timeless, that's eternal, that's
Mhm.
here for us now as we go through this experience, this sort of closing of the Piscean age. When, we're getting the grand finale of all the fireworks displayed. If you ever been to a fireworks show, like the last bit of the fireworks show, they set off like gazillions of fireworks all at once. And that kind of like what this feels like is like gazillions of fireworks. Like, let us show you all the triggering things that your ancestors went through in their time on this planet. And let's just do it as a massive fireworks show and just scare the hell out of you, with what your ancestors survived. And the rearing of the ugly head, like I feel like that is here for us to help us to sort of like another reference in the movie Harrison Ford was in with the he was Indiana Jones, and they had the I can't remember which one it was, but they had the box with all the sacred living stuff, and the Nazis had it, and they were getting it away from the Nazis, right? And Harrison Ford, he was tied to the pole with his gal, and he's like, "Don't look at anything coming out of the box." Like they're gonna open it and it's gonna melt your face off. And like
Mhm.
they close their eyes and they wouldn't look at it, and it literally melted, the face off of the guy who opened it and looked at it. So I feel like we're in this like moment, maybe Pandora's box kind of moment, right? Of like, yeah, there's a lot of things that could completely stress you out. And you can't just be an ostrich with your head in the sand. So what do you recommend to people? Because I have no desire to be like the good Germans that sipped tea while Jewish people were being rounded up and put in concentration camps. Like, no way, no how am I going to be that person. Also, I don't want to be so immersed in all the details and the terrible things and the atrocities and just the things that make you have sacred rage. I don't want to be so immersed in that I can't live my life too. So what's your recommendation for people that might be straddling the same question?
Okay, so first and foremost, what I typically do and what I would suggest is I do what's referred to as news fasting. And news fasting, and I also share that with my clients as well. So when one is starting to feel so symptomatic or affected or agitated, that's clearly an indication that one needs to disengage. So first and foremost, disconnecting from social media, hence news fasting. I might also suggest more self-care, implementing self-care, journaling, meditating, prayer, going out into nature, connecting with friends, writing, also engaging in eating healthier, relaxing more. So there's a number of things that an individual can do to kind of disconnect from the chaos that's outside in the world. And I think what I really want to emphasize is what is going on is external. Again, power and control and agency is internal. And we have so much power and control, it's at our disposal. And what we need to simply do is really exercise that. And, the more we do it and the more we engage in these uplifting, positive practices, it's going to stabilize us and ground us more and more and more. And again, when we find ourselves getting off center, out of, not grounded anymore. Again, getting back to those practices, that's key. Because again, if you keep just, engaging in all this negativity feedback, it anchors you and has an adverse effect on the whole, your spirit, your human condition, everything, your functionality. So I would say engaging in those particular practices would be quite helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like for me that I'm an empath, so I experience everything empathically. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I'm tuned to the 12th house Scorpio, so I'm deep collective. I'm feeling everything on the collective level, and so for me, it's like it feels kind of like my cup gets full of the stuff that is out there. Like I'll be watching what's going on the feed. I'll be picking up this or that, or watch a targeted, you know, broadcast by a trusted source, or, and then I'll have to actually, like you said, non-attachment, non-engagement, retreat back into my cave,
Mhm.
process everything that's come up for me, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that's come up for me, and some of that's my soul work. Like some of that stuff is ancestral. I had ancestors who experienced this kind of treatment, or it's like my past soul life, or it's just me in an earlier version of myself in this life. So somewhere that is, getting on my field because I need to slow down, breathe, feel it, let it do its alchemy work, right? Like let it transmute, alchemize inside of me
Mhm.
until I feel clear again and grounded again and present again. And for me, that process of going to collect and then coming back in the cave and processing is it helps me to shore up, like reclaim lost pieces of myself back inside, right? And kind of like if there were any holes in the bucket, like plug up those holes in my bucket, like plugging up, like I'm not thrown out by that. I'm not thrown out by this. And actually firing the gun was one of those things for me because I've had such a repulsion towards weaponry. I've had such a repulsion. I must have done some horrible things in another life is all I can think. But I had such a repulsion to it. And it was like, no, I need to actually reincorporate this into my being. It's like, yes, I can do this. I can shoot a gun. I can fire a weapon. It doesn't change who I am in my integrity level to know how, right? So it's like bringing that piece back in, and any forgiveness that needs to be done for whatever ancestry or lifetime is, having that experience of repulsion. It's like, okay, let me just bring that back into my human experience. So for me, I feel like it's all like an opportunity for us now to do this massive review, on the Piscean age and any lifetimes that we had or the ancestry that we chose to incarnate in. It's do all this like deep rewiring and reclaiming of ourselves by feeling it to heal it. What do you think about all that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like it's so necessary to be able to, again, feel empowered, be able to take what's going on and utilize it in a way that doesn't work against us, but works for us. So again, if certain things come to the surface, it might be, oh my God, I'm feeling so angry right now, or I'm feeling anxious or fearful. Okay, what are you trying to convey to me? What is it you're afraid of? What, in essence, can we work on together to come to resolution, to feel more relief, to feel empowered, and to feel in control? I think what's going on at a macro level is this very controlling kind of demeaning kind of power that's being utilized to anchor people down and destroy their spirits and their outlook and their hope and their peace and their joy. And that's what we need to be so cognizant of and say, that's what's going out there externally. That's not going on inside of me internally. I can continue to be happy and grounded and remain peaceful regardless of all of again, the chaos that I am witnessing and experiencing, because that's about them. That's not necessarily about me. And therefore, I don't have to allow what's going on externally define what's going on internally. The peace and the serenity and the joy is always within. One just needs to tap in on that and utilize it as an ongoing resource during, again, these very tumultuous, chaotic times that we're living in.
Yeah, and I think what you're speaking to is attention. So our attention is just, if it's actually more valuable than money. Our attention is what they're looking for. It's kind of like I have had small children. I think you've had children. Small children try to get your attention, right? Like they throw a tantrum. And if you don't pay attention to it, if you set the pattern, if you already kind of know that and you don't pay attention to it, you give them what they need, but you don't give energy to it, then that method of getting their way sort of evaporates. But most of us, we started off as parents not knowing that. And so, and some of us that maybe had parents that were not available, or they didn't really want to be a parent to us, or they felt uncomfortable around us and they didn't want us there. And I think that at least one of our members of our leadership in the government right now, and if you can call it leadership, had that situation. His mother actually spoke to that. I didn't want this child. It caused me a great deal of stress. I had to go to a mental hospital, this kind of thing. So when we grow up with that, we never actually move beyond the toddler response because it gets frozen in place as like, this works, so I'll just stay here. And we never have to evolve ourselves past toddler tantrums in order to get our way. Like, we don't learn how to work with others. We don't learn how to listen, how to negotiate, how to compromise, how to maintain civil, respectful connection with another human being, even though there's a disagreement. So I think in the United States, we have a lot of really immature relating skills, and it's reflected by the people who were elected. So we really have to look at ourselves in asking ourselves, am I consciously relating in a mature way? Or am I burning bridges because that's all I learned how to do as a toddler, was throw a tantrum and burn a bridge, instead of actually staying with a really beautiful alchemical experience of understanding a perspective that's different than yours. I remember this came up for me during the pandemic when all the vaccines were coming out and they were saying, oh, you have to take this vaccine, you have to, it was kind of getting really authoritarian and controlling about it. And I was not feeling a yes in my body. I was feeling like, no, that's not for me. And so I was with a lot of other people also around me saying, yeah, that's not for us. That's not for us. And feeling attacked and bullied and disconnecting from family members and shunning people and, getting stressed out and finding new communities and just saying, well, that's just done. I'm never going to talk to them again kind of thing. But what's different is that I decided to heal the mother wound, and I decided to come back and practice my conscious diplomacy skills and talk to my parents and talk to my my brother and my family who were really immersed in the idea that it was helping them. And they were concerned about me. And so when I could receive the love behind the criticism, behind the fear, when I could receive that really what they were saying was, we're terrified you're going to get sick and you're going to make us sick. It was like, wow, I was able, and it was like a distortion field. Like there was like this weird energy of distortion that I had to be present with in order to bridge the love that was clearly there for them and that was definitely there for me without feeling so attacked and taking it personally. I had to really be present for weeks during that time. And what happened was we got to the other side and they respected my choice to not take the vaccine and I respected their choice to take it. And it became a non-issue. So I don't think, it's my supposition when I look at people and how they're reacting to things, that they didn't take that journey to more maturely relate to people with a different perspective.
Absolutely. So I think in some instances, some individuals are what I refer to as unhealthy, unhealed, and unwell. And I think sometimes when they are affected by a particular trauma at a certain age, some of them might experience what's kind of referred to as like a developmental arrest. And so in essence, their emotional maturity level becomes stunted. And so you look at some individuals that are, in high places, right now, those people clearly might have been very much affected. And we see how they act out, and it's about control and fear and their inability to have compassion and understanding. When we look at those particular behaviors, those are symptoms of perhaps of what has been left unhealed. So in essence, they're unhealthy, they're unhealed, they're unwell. But what we need to realize is, although they're coming from places of power and control and dominance and fear, that in essence are the parts of themselves that are unhealed. However, if we come back with more fear and anger and animosity and hate, it's only going to, what? Fear begets more fear, hate begets more hate. So in essence, we have to come back in with more love, more understanding, more empathy, what have you, even if it keeps coming back to us with fear and power and control and dominance, because I feel in terms of the solution to any particular problems in the world, it's not fear, it's not killing, it's not hating, but it's love. Because love to me is the greatest healing agent of all. And when you look at individuals that are lacking in empathy and don't care about their brothers and their sisters, their food, their shelter, their clothing, you have to consider, what happened to you that made you become this very callous, cruel, hardened human being that doesn't really care about what's going on, again, with your brothers and sisters. And that, in essence, is a symptom of what happened to them. So if we could look at them, and I know it's really, really difficult at times, but through more of a lens of compassion, that will give us a sense of understanding, and maybe we won't be so outraged and angry and mad at these individuals, and can kind of become, more understanding and be agents of change, because we don't want to, in essence, keep promoting this hostility and this hate and this negativity, because it's not the solution to the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to be courageous in looking at ourselves,
Yes.
because here's the other thing. And I know that so much of my audience has heard this before in terms of relationships, but I believe we're really seeing an epidemic society-wide of this, which is when we cannot own our mistakes and say, I made a mistake.
Mhm.
Then we're in the camp of the narcissist versus the empath. I mean, I really don't like labels, but I have to bring it in again because I really want people to see. Like, we've talked about this, how often in terms of relationships, so many people teaching, spiritual teachers teaching about this empath narcissist relationship, right? And so when you're in the narcissist part, it's because you're not able to heal that wounded place within you. You're not willing to see the full impact of your actions, the ripple effect of your actions on others. You're not willing to admit mistake.
Mhm.
And when you're not willing to do that, you're not going to heal. You're just going to cause more harm by sort of steeling yourself against feeling it, or by retreating to your mind instead of being in your heart.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think
Absolutely.
this is how, because I've put a lot of thought into this, like, how did all of these spiritual people get aligned with all of these religious indoctrinated people in the fundamentalist Christian space, get aligned with people who I see, if I would, I've heard many people say, classify them as narcissistic sociopaths, like malignant narcissist sociopathic leaders. Like, how did all of these people get aligned in the same space together? It's been perplexing for me, but it finally dropped in the other day, is that what they share in common is unhealed wounds. They share in common they have not addressed the deep wounds within, and have gotten instead reactive against something, like reactive against the people they perceive were persecuting them for the vaccine. Now they've switched positions from victim to persecutor, and now they want to persecute everyone who persecuted them. So there's like this strange, like, I'm going to get you back thing, which is a really young child response to working out differences. It's not a
Mhm.
mature response.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I think in some instances, people are very vulnerable. People in politics may perhaps tell people at times what they want to hear. And this idea of feeling empowered and feeling like you're going to make something, better or great again. And then they're so enthusiastic because they feel like, oh, we're going to be a part of this. But then in essence, when they see, oh my goodness, what we believed for, what we believed in, that suddenly isn't happening. So I think in some instances, I think for the most part, people are fundamentally good. I think some people can be indoctrinated. I think people can be brainwashed by systems and they can be influenced in bad ways. But I think overall, that's what happens to a lot of people. And then they don't realize, oh my goodness, we've been manipulated, or in essence, we've been taken advantage of. And when you look at individuals that are grappling with, let's say with malignant narcissism, they will do anything to maintain their persona, their image. They don't want to be exposed. They don't want to be revealed. So they will do anything that it takes to protect that identity that they're projecting to the world. But inside, all that they're projecting, in essence, is what they're feeling, their inadequacies that they are, again, projecting outwardly, to people of different nationalities and races and so on and so forth. It's not about those individuals. It's about, again, their unhealed wounds. But going back to individuals and what's taking place in society in terms of them being manipulated, so to speak. And I think in a lot of respects that is happening. And it's unfortunate because when push comes to shove, suddenly it's like, okay, there's not, social welfare programs, this and that's being taken away. Suddenly they're going to wake up and say, hey, what's going on here? The person that we thought this individual was, they are not.
Yeah, and that's that part about admitting mistakes.
Exactly.
And the thing with an empath is the empath usually is the first one in the relationship that goes into therapy, that admits mistakes, that seeks help, that feels so much pain that they're the first ones that go in and say, I need some help. I need help figuring this out. And then, oftentimes in those configurations, like the person that's more narcissistic, that has a harder time admitting fault, is the one that gets, clings to their beliefs and their ideologies and gets more and more regimented and less willing to listen. And unfortunately, I'm seeing that a lot, even in the spiritual community. And that makes me sad because I feel like we have the tools, we have the wisdom from our own journeys, we have the insight about shadow work, we have the knowing that we need to heal from within. And so I really hope and pray that we at least can move ourselves out of this matrix by admitting some mistakes and moving towards the other perspectives to listen, to see, to understand, to expand our own perceptions, and to join together. And that is my prayer. I hope that we can do that. And I want to talk a few minutes about another thing that could get in the way of that, which is a really uncomfortable feeling in the body, especially in a woman's body, that feeling of shame, right? Because when we admit the harm that we have caused inadvertently from having really strident perspectives and beliefs and enforcing it on others, we as an empathic, caring, spiritual being might feel ashamed of ourselves. We might feel some shame. And shame is a really hard thing to feel, but tell us, what are some of the benefits of actually facing that shame and feeling that shame?
Wow. So having dealt with toxic shame my entire life, first of all, I didn't even know that I had it, and then coming to terms with the shame, obviously I came to this place of full liberation. And for me, what that was, well, I can talk about whatever I'm experiencing and not feeling like, I'm inadequate or that there's something wrong with me. But again, I think when you go back to narcissism, my mother was a narcissist. And so in essence, a lot of the shame that she couldn't contend with, she projected onto me, and then it became internalized. And I was carrying all this shame, feeling ashamed of, feeling defective and unlovable and unworthy and all of that. That was never really mine to begin with. It was, again, her shame being projected upon me. So being freed up of shame and being liberated from it, you're no longer bogged down. You're able to talk about it and you're able to share your experiences, and knowing that the vast majority of people on this planet have some degree of shame, obviously themselves as well.
Yeah, and when we can talk about it instead of hide it and deny it and kind of build the walls, if we can instead feel it, let it soften the walls, let it soften our hearts, let us take accountability and responsibility for our own actions and words and beliefs, but also not rake ourselves over the coal over it. You know, we believed what we believed and now we see something new. And so we can believe something new because we're learning, like we're in earth school. I feel like that construct or that message around we're in earth school, you guys, we can make mistakes. And it doesn't mean that we're bad people. If we make mistakes, what we can do is correct them. We can learn from them. We can correct our mistakes. And there's something really beautiful about admitting a mistake. It brings in this wonderful energy of humility. And humility leads you to being this humble human. And humble humans are like delightful to be around, you know, because in my experience, like a humble human respects other people's journeys because they respect themselves. They know that they're not here to like top down and force anything on any other person. They know that they're just here as a sacred witness. And it cleans up so much of the what the Andean people call hucha, you know, heavy energy. When we as humans stop trying to control each other and make each other conform to our own ideologies and perspectives, when we just come back into ourselves, like you said, the place of agency and power is within ourselves. When we come back into that, we have so much capacity for love because we're not trying to change anybody. We're just being with whatever reaction we have inside, bringing our love to it, healing ourselves, reclaiming more of ourselves, right? And then just like taking that inward journey with all of it rather than needing to like punish somebody outside of us or make them responsible. It's just such a different way of living. And I think that's how you stay in peace, right? I mean, ultimately, isn't that how, not to put words in your mouth, but ultimately, isn't that a factor in the peace you were talking about? Is that total self-accountability?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about what you cultivate on a daily basis, what you believe, what you cultivate in your day-to-day life. And again, what I really want to emphasize today is coming from this place of power and control and knowing that you can be part of the solution in this world and not of the problem. And again, all of this fear and this power and control that's trying to be instilled within us and upon us, no, that doesn't have to be, because we have the power, we have the control, we have the agency, we have what it takes within ourselves. We just need to believe that. We need to exercise that and live that every single day. And that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, and I share with all the clients that I work with.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's really about frequency as well. And so when we're able to transmute, alchemize all the heavy energies that we encounter during our life back into Sami. Sami is the other word. So Hucha and Sami. Hucha is the heavy energy that only humans generate. Just hear that, guys.
Mhm.
Hucha is the energy only humans generate. It's heavy, dense energy. And when you can transmute that, alchemize it through your body, through your being, by feeling it to heal it, by being present with it, by remembering who you are in truth, by sinking your roots down into Mother Earth, when you can actually heal it, it becomes ordered, natural energy that you would experience out in nature. It's Sami, Sami. It's Sami, it's light. And we're here to do that. I believe we're here to do that. And when we live from Sami, we create a very different reality than when we live from Hucha. So beautiful. There's so much in this conversation. I know that you have a master's degree in counseling. You've been in private practice since 2009. So people can work with you individually if they really want some support with working through the panic and the anxiety and the depression. even the shame, right? So developmental and recovery stages of shame to help them understand how shame becomes solidified. So is there anything that you would like people to know before we exit this interview?
Well, in regards to, again, anxiety, depression, panic, shame, whatever they might be grappling with, when they do, in fact, experience it, welcome it. It's not about something being wrong with you. Again, they're messengers, they're allies. They want resolution. They want to be solved. They want to be healed. And again, embrace that, accept it, recognize it, and then move into managing symptoms and improving the overall quality of your life. I think that that's paramount. We want to live in a state of peace, and we want to live in a state of joy, and to know that we can have that and we can exercise that, and it's within us. And so not to give up and not to pathologize symptoms. It's part of the human condition. We're all struggling right now, and we just need to normalize our experiences. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you've authored 3 books. Are they all on Amazon? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Therapy Land is the first book. Rethinking Anxiety and Depression, 2 Important Messengers. And Conquering Shame, Surviving to Thriving. So you can check out those books. I'll put the links below in the show notes. And just check out Monica. Go check out what her work is. Go find out more. Go deeper. I'll encourage you to do that. And in the meantime, share this episode out with anybody that you think needs it. And I'm going to just close with kisses. So we always close with kisses. And I just really invite everyone to take a nice deep breath, receiving the love of this episode, the messages, the love. And here come your kisses. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show, everyone. Bye for now. If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Show. Take a sip from the drip of the nectar, from the source of who you are.